Oh, you're going to like this. Go ahead, Theory.
And yet I always seem to second guess. Cause of my skin tone, they saying that I'm just a guest. Plus I was 30, so they started coming at my neck. So many shots been fired, I've been feeling like I need a vest. I'ma show them what I got. And all the ones who said I'd fail, I'll admit my shit is hot. And all the ones who came before me, I'ma see them at the top. Cause I ain't never gonna stop. Now I ain't never gonna stop until I drop.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Warrior Vetrepreneur Podcast. I have Tim here with me from Breathwork in Bed, but before we get into that, I thank you for following me on this journey and helping me spread the word to these veterans that need to get off the couch and back in the game, which we all know is the goal of the Warrior Vetrepreneur Podcast. I got a mission here. And before we move forward to the most important part, which is my guest, I want to talk to you about this book. It's out. It's up for sale. If you scan the QR code at the bottom of the page, it'll take you to a link where you can find this book and purchase it. It's on Amazon, and it's Speak Up, Show Up, Lead. The cover said it's a veteran story of grit, growth, and leadership from the ground up, but really, it's my story from the ground up. And I'm trying to inspire people to do the same thing that this show does and just move forward, because just because we don't have the confidence in ourselves doesn't mean we can't do it. Anyway, Tim, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. And that was such a good intro. Theory rocked it. Big shout out to that guy. You know who you are. And on your book there, From the Ground Up, I love that, because we're going to get into the soil today. We're going to get into some unseen power underneath the ground.
I love it. I love it. So, you have this great business, and I have the app on my phone. As promised last week when you told me about it, I went and downloaded the app and I got it started, but I want to hear your story. But I think it's great. And I think mindfulness and breath work is basically the foundation for anybody who has anxiety, PTSD, depression, any sort of maybe anger issues. It doesn't matter. I think it's the foundation. So, Tim, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and maybe sharing your journey, if going from commando, special forces to what you're doing now?
Sure, no problem at all. Well, I grew up in a town that was, I guess, the classic sort of deep South, like very isolated, insulated, a lot of racial tension. My father worked for the Aboriginals, so we're in this sort of medium strip. A lot of whites didn't like us, but the Aboriginals didn't not like us, but they didn't trust us. But that changed after about 3 or 4 years. And growing up in that culture was such a blessing. I really got to connect with an unseen part of myself. And they seem to do it quite naturally. And so to have that base growing up was amazing. I felt blessed to be really connected to my body growing up. Although at school, I felt disconnected from everything because I had dyslexia. And back in the 70s and 80s, the technical term for dyslexia was "you're stupid," and you tell a kid that enough, you start to believe it. So I just became that kind of troublemaker in class. Now, I did apply to get into the army when I was 19, but the process of getting in, they lost my paperwork a stack of times. And I'm like, if this is what it's like trying to get in, what's it going to be like in there? So I stepped back. And in between sort of 19 and 30, I started my professional fight career, got married, and at 30, they had this scheme in Australia called the DRSF scheme, Direct Recruiting into Special Forces. So the first time ever in Australia's history, they were screening civilian personnel to see if they could go into Special Forces. Before that time, JJ, they had at least 2 years had to be spent in a regular infantry battalion before you could even apply to get into Special Forces. So we were actually met with great resistance. We were considered civilian queue jumpers. And they really tried to stop the scheme. But of the 70 guys that started, I was the oldest at 30. 30 was the oldest allowable age. Everyone was saying you're too old. But I was very proud to say at the end of it, I was one of the less than 15 people that actually got through to the end. We then went on to have our deployments to East Timor, Afghanistan. And I served between 2004 to 2010. That was my service history in the Australian Special Forces.
Okay. Now, you transitioned and then you got into this crazy thing. How long did it take you to start your own business? And what was that process like that got you to the point where you wanted to do such a thing?
Well, interesting question, JJ, because like a lot of veterans, I got out and I said, I'll be right. I'll just get a job. Then I'll be fine. And I did. And like, what does a confused commando do? He opens up an outdoor boot camp, so he can yell at people, right?
I love it.
But the work was going well, but think of the way I sort of look at it is your mental health is like walls in your house. Mm-hmm. Mental health is the roof that sits on top, and you've got a lot of walls that hold it up. And us blokes, we tend to have a show wall, the wall that we show off to others saying, look at what I can do. I'm awesome at that. And if anyone points out other walls in our house that are crumbling a bit, we'll just redirect them. Didn't you see how well I fixed that car? Don't you see how people value me for making them fitter? I was living in this delusion just because I had one area of my life good, then everything else can go to hell. It didn't work, unfortunately. Right. And so I lost about 6 years of my life to pills because I wasn't sleeping, right? And I was drinking a lot. And no one told me at the time that simple breath work, could do a better job than the pills at giving my mind peace. A better job than the pills of giving my mind pain relief and anti-inflammation. And I'm very cautious to say this because, there's a time and a place to take pills. I'm not completely anti-pills. Sometimes they're the lesser of two evils, but what nobody tells you is there's a benefit to taking, the pills, but there's a massive cost as well. And that cost accumulates the longer you're on them. And everything that pill gives you, you kind of got to give it back when you cut these things out of your life. The discomfort and pain you go through getting off of these things, they don't tell you about. They're quite easy to throw them at you. So anyway, look, I'm coming through this. I'm starting to get my head above water, and I start seeing how many other veterans are in the same place. Mm-hmm. And it was breaking my freaking heart, JJ. So I'm like, well, what can I do? I feel like I'm not trained in this. What can I do? So I started working at these veteran recovery centers, and I had this goal of saving 40 veteran lives from suicide. That was the goal I had because we'd lost about that many Australian personnel to bombs and bullets in Afghanistan. But like yourselves, we've lost many more to suicide than we have in combat, to the order of 30 to 40 times what we've lost in combat. So I thought, if I can save 40 veteran lives from suicide, I'm going to die happy, That was actually achieved within 12 months. Why? Because as a dyslexic, I might not be academically, gifted, but I can see patterns. And the pattern I saw happening was there was two things that the mainstream system didn't see. And that was how the first one was how pain actually worked. Everyone's dealing with what's above the ground, okay? But what's underneath the soil is where it comes from. And where all this pain comes from is, it doesn't matter if the pain's emotional or physical, JJ. We found it got to a certain duration or intensity where that pain transformed into loneliness. I'm the only person going through this. I feel disconnected from everybody. And in that loneliness, if I'm the only one that's got my back, I can't drop my guard for a second. Something bad's going to happen. It's going to be my fault, right? And so they're not sleeping. So there's two things we did that once we clicked these two things into place, it's like they magically came back to life. One was breaking isolation. And that could have been as simple as someone else sharing their story about what they've gone through. And then people start saying, gee, I thought I was the only one going through that. And then the other thing is getting them out of fatigue. So the success of all our veteran programs was measured on how much you could improve the metric of sleep. So we just noticed, break the isolation, get them out of fatigue. This magic compass kicks into gear and they know exactly where to go. And so it's very easy to say, to do more, you've got to do more. I tend to go, you know what? Let's work on your unconscious hours. My specialty is helping people in their unconscious hours to improve that quality of rest. So their conscious hours, you're more available. And so I've just seen this pattern. If we can restore someone's sleep, everything gets better.
Oh, okay. You still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you lose me?
Just for a second. Yeah, you said better. I think you might have stopped, but you stopped with your hands in the air. So anyway, we digress. Moving right along. So I'd like to hear what you have to say about this, and then I know we're going to probably go through an exercise here pretty soon. But what would you have to say to those? Because I'm sure you've run across them. Because I know I've run across plenty of them at the VA over here in the United States. But I'm part of that environment where it's the opposite. So regardless of what anxiety or whatever I have, I tend to deal with those problems through either A, getting really, really angry, or B, sleeping and sleeping and sleeping and sleeping. So for someone like that, do you think their breathing techniques that benefit that as well, or and why?
Okay, so using anger for a source of energy is a sign often of adrenal fatigue. Okay, the way it works chemically is cortisol is a chemical that we produce. We can push on, we can work when we're tired, and this country was made great by people using cortisol, right? But time and a place for everything. If you have too much cortisol for too long, it drives your endocrine system, your hormones, your testosterone into the dirt. So, a balanced, masculine energy, they feel powerful, they're happy and generous. Okay. A masculine that doesn't feel powerful, they're unhappy and they're very stingy. Okay. And stingy with energy often means, well, someone's in my space, they've pissed me off, I'm going to push them away with anger. And using anger when you're fatigued is like writing a check for $1,000 when you've only got 10 in the account. It just drives you further under, and then further into I'm wanting to escape and isolate myself from everything. Okay, so what I work on is internal connections. Powerful internal connections have a higher likelihood of having powerful external connections.
Okay.
So to start with, we've got to connect to ourselves. And I love introducing people to their breath. And what I see myself as is the person that introduces you to the new best friend you've got for the rest of your life. The love of your life is going to be underneath your own chest, because when you learn that you don't own a set of lungs, you own a medicine cabinet with a lot of different shelves. You can breathe a certain way to bring your anger down. You can breathe a certain way to raise your adrenaline and get ready to fight or flight. You can breathe a certain way to sleep, get out of bed, heal yourself, anti-inflammation. This medicine cabinet no one hears about simply because no one's making money. And it's usually, people that have gone through the ringer like you and me and possibly the people that are listening, that you're very vulnerable when you're hurting and seeking answers. And it wasn't until I was in that vulnerable state where I realized, look, it's not an age of information we're in. It's an age of marketing. The first 6 pages of Google are marketers, right? So to find a real healer is really hard, because the loudest voice in the room is often the one going, hey, we want a repeat sale out of you. We don't see you as a human that we want to get better. We want to kind of keep you sick and keep getting dollars out of your back pocket. And that can go on for years, and the person ends up blaming themselves. So what I'd love to do for everybody right now is give you a little demonstration of breath work and see how natural and immediate the impact of your own breath is.
I'm going to join you.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to this. So all we got to do is be seated in a comfortable, supported chair. Okay. Ideally one with armrests, but just be aware of your body right now. Now, breath work is very easy. You've been doing it your whole life, but because you've been doing it your whole life, you've got a certain habit of doing it. Okay. So this is going to be easy, but it's going to be new. All right. And because it's so new, I have to ask yourself and people participating, listening to this, 3 very important questions. And they're just invitations that you, so you can get the most from this experience. So JJ, do you give your own breath permission to fully nourish every cell in your physical body?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. JJ and those listening, do you give your breath full permission to fully nourish your mind?
Yes.
Awesome. JJ, do you give permission to your breath to fully nourish every part of your unconscious mind?
Yes.
Awesome. So here's what we're going to do. We're simply going to breathe in and out. Okay, if you did that, congratulations. You're connected to your breath. That's our first step in coming home. So now what we're going to do, JJ, is when we breathe in, we're going to breathe in again and again and again and again. Okay? So blow it out, shake it out, blow it out, shake it out, 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 out. Then breathe in, and then breathe in more. Hold it, wriggle your shoulders, feel that chest loosening up and opening up. And if it feels good, let it out with a sigh. All right. So, did you notice when you breathed up into your top third a bit more, when you breathed in again and again and again, and then we just moved it around a bit and opened that up a bit, it kind of like, wow, kind of has this happy effect on us. All right. And that's just the start. We're just dipping our toe into this. All right. So the great thing about my job, JJ, the joy that I have is introducing people to how wonderful their body is. And a lot of people don't know that in their fingers, 2 fingers and thumbs, that pinching action, that is a power button. Okay. So what we're going to do is when we breathe in and out, that was your primary. When you breathe in and then in again and again and again, we'll call that one your secondary. You got that? So primary breath. And when you breathe in more, secondary. I want you to hit these power buttons, pinch your fingers together as hard as you can when you get to your secondary inhale. So you'll breathe in, then halfway through, you'll hit the power buttons. Cool, cool?
Okay. Yep.
All right. So blow it out, shake it out. Blow it out, shake it out. Out, out, out. Out as much as you can. More than you think. Start breathing in. Hit those power buttons. Open everything. Open. Now wriggle your shoulders. Feel that chest opening up like a flower. Feel the sun warming up that flower. And then if it feels good, let it out with a big sigh. And just let that energy do what it's supposed to do. Energy's got an intelligence of its own. Some people, it goes into their neck to relax them, their shoulders, whatever part of you can be tense. Let it do what it does. It'll go to where it's supposed to go. So now what we're going to do, JJ, is the same thing. But if everyone looks at my nose here, everyone's got a nose, and behind your nose, you have sinuses. Now, we're going to do something that my fighting coach taught me in the ring. He said, Tim, before you do a combination, do a big snort as fast as you can, because according to him, that pulled air across the sinuses and into the brain. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. However, it worked in combat, and now they've shown that breathing through your nose produces what's called nitric oxide. It's a gas that has a very favorable impact on your heart, your lungs, your brain, your circulation. It's a vasodilator. All right. So nose breathing, super powerful. And now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to double the speed of our inhale. We're going to breathe in and really snort that nose. Okay. So I should have, and just wriggle it and then let it out with a sigh. And just let that energy, because this is a whole new way, and you've let it into your body, you've let it into your mind, you've let it into your unconscious mind. Just let it circulate. This is literally an active receivership right now. I know you're a doer, JJ. I know you like doing, but this active receivership, the way I sort of see it, it's like a bow and arrow. These kind of feelings, we're going into our bow to create more momentum. It looks nothing like us doing stuff, but it's creating momentum for us to actually hit our targets. even though it seems like it's going in the opposite direction. The more we relax, the more we receive the goodness that's there, the better we, the more momentum we have to hit whatever targets we want to hit. All right.
Okay.
So this time we can increase by 2,000% the amount of nitric oxide produced through the nose by humming. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to blow it out. Let me give you a demonstration. Out, out, out. We're going to breathe in, looking to the ceiling. We're going to hold our nose, shake it down, and then hum through our nose. And actually, let me give you a little demonstration. Everyone just breathe in and just hum. Hum, cover one nostril with one thumb. Now squeeze off the other one. And find that you can just find a place where you can keep humming with your mouth closed and you make a vibration with your nose. Feel that vibration as you hum, pinching your nose. Okay? That's really good. And that's going to give us, we're going to move from the breath of, I call it the breath of possibility. We push it down low and then we hum through our nose, and that's the breath of peace. Now, this one here, you do need to be seated. You can't do this driving, cutting up carrots, or operating heavy machinery. All right. So I'll give you a demonstration. We're going to blow it out. We're going to really snort. We're going to open. We're going to wriggle. Our nose is going to point to the ground. We're going to hum for as long as we can, pinching our nose. Cool, cool?
Okay.
All right. So with your power buttons ready, blow it out, shake it out. Blow it out, shake it out. Blow it out, shake it out. Out, 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 out. Get ready for a really quick inhale through the nose. Snort that air. In. Snort open. Look to the ceiling. Look to the ceiling. Wriggle, wriggle, wriggle. Pinch your nose. Pinch your nose. Head forward. Nose to the floor. Nose to the floor. And then hum for as long as possible. Hum for as long as possible. Just let that vibration go through your body. Let that vibration go through your body. Right.
Tingly.
Yeah. Well, you're oxygenating your body, and that oxygen doesn't allow us to hold tension in our body or mind, and that was just essentially one breath. I know we're compressed for time. I'll send you a little link for people to do that in their own time. But if you were to do that 3 times, that's the quickest way to bring about complete relaxation to your body.
Okay. Well, what is the name of the site? I probably should have asked you before the show started.
Well, look, if anyone with a phone, smart or Android, just go into your app store, look up 3 words: Breathwork in bed.
Oh,
and it'll ask you 2 very important questions. When do you want to sleep? When do you want to wake up? And it'll fall out of your phone when you need it to. My goal is to do for breath work what Uber Eats did for food. I just want people to have it easy and convenient in their bed, going to sleep, waking up.
There you go. Look at the bottom of the screen if you're seeing this and you missed what he just said, but I'm going to say it again anyway. That's Breathwork in bed. And you can look that up on your smartphone, probably your tablet, whatever smart devices you have with a Google Play or iOS Apple Store. And you can download that. It'll go through a series of questions, and you will be on your way to doing this morning and night every day, and have a platform to be able to discuss it with other people that are doing the same thing.
Absolutely. I can't do what you do, but if I can improve your sleep, then you're going to bring your gifts into the world as well. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with everybody, Tim. Now is the point where I ask everybody the same question, and you're not going to be surprised because I told you before the call, but most people are. So this show is about inspiring veterans who may be stuck, whether it's during transition or at any point after their service, with what their next step is going to be. What advice do you have for those people that are struggling and need to move forward?
Got it. Well, being a veteran-centric podcast, I'll speak to the veterans. When you were trained to take a sight picture on your weapon, you would take a deep breath in, and then let it out slowly. And then all of a sudden things would line up and you could see what you're aiming at. So my advice to you is connect to your breath. That everything will still, and whatever target you need to see, you will see once you master this breath. This breath is yours. You own it. And, I had to go through, PTSD, divorce, lost my house, home, regular access to kids to make me realize that this is about where my influence stops, at my skin. I can't control stuff outside of my own skin. But what's underneath my skin, what's underneath my chest cavity, is what I can control. And you will be so surprised how powerful you become with a powerful internal connection.
And I think, I know you and I discussed this on the call that we had last week with one another, but a big part of that, because I've gone through a very similar journey. I didn't lose my family, thank God. I have a wife who is a saint, to be quite honest with you, because I went through some very difficult times during my transition as well. But when you're doing all this breath work and connecting to yourself, stop living in the past, stop worrying about the future, and figure out who you are and what you're feeling when you are all in the moment. When you can be all in the moment, then you can start worrying about external factors, external things. But if you can't calm yourself down and get to a point where you can just be at ease with yourself, then all of those other things are they're always going to be chaotic. They're always going to be fuzzy. They're always going to be stressful. They're always going to be horrible. And until you can connect with yourself, like what Tim is saying, and do it through your breath, but also making sure that you're paying attention to what you feel when you are with yourself, then if you never make that connection and you never get to the point where you can be in the moment, then you're going to struggle with everything else.
Yeah, well said. And the quickest way, the natural way, the most immediate impact that I've personally found, and a lot of other veterans too, is just simple breath work. Could it be that simple? Could peace be a gift we give ourselves? Really?
Yeah.
I say yes.
Yeah. Yeah. We all served. All of us veterans who are watching this, if you're not a veteran who's watching this, you can hear this message and receive this message if you want to. One of the biggest things that we're always told, and we have to learn day to day, is taking ownership for everything within your sphere of influence. And we lose track of that when we transition. We have identity issues and we just don't know who we are without the uniform. Take ownership of who you are and move forward that way. Just like Tim said, you connect with yourself first, because the only thing you can control is you. You figure out all the internal factors and you'll go out there and crush it on the outside.
Nice words, JJ. Love it.
Oh man, I live this stuff, and just like you get passionate about it because you struggled with it too. And when you've been through it and you've risen above it, then you want everybody to rise above it.
Yeah, it is not enough to win the race on your own. You got to win it with everybody. And I kind of think that, you know what, if I know I've spoken about breath, but I'll say this to the veterans listening. You might not think you're special, but I bet you've been through some shit. All right. And it's our job to turn that shit into fertilizer. Okay. Yep. And the stinkiest shit, the shit that you don't want to touch, actually becomes the best fertilizer to help everything grow, to help you grow and help everyone else grow. And the thing is, you ask yourself, how many other people are up against the same shit? Okay. And it might take you, a week, a year, a decade to get through your shit, to turn it into fertilizer. But that's the amount of time you're going to be able to save other people.
Yeah.
So before I start a journey, I think, well, how many other people are in the same situation as me? How many, and in my case, how many other guys are how many other veterans or people are struggling to sleep and are looking for a solution other than pills? And because, I was deep in that shit, and I've got skin in the game now, I'm like I'm passionate, but I'm also very eager to connect people into something super powerful, because once you've got that connection, there's that's yours. I'm not pointing out anything. This is anything I didn't discover this. Sorry, I didn't invent this. This was a simple discovery. Took me a while to discover, but this is, I'm loving what we're doing here because we can help other people discover what they need to in far less time.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I mean, the Chinese and I shouldn't say just the Chinese, but Asian culture has been doing all of these things for so long. And look how young they look for so long. And then look how old they get over there. I mean, my goodness, when I say they, anyway, it doesn't matter. There's something to be learned there. When
thousands of years they've been saying, if you control your breath, you can control everything. Thousands of years ago. And now we're like, oh, look at us. We're so smart. We know. No, we're not. Yeah. This isn't new. This is nothing new. It's just been somewhat muffled in the marketing world we currently live in.
Yeah. Well said. I was kind of at a loss of words there. So I'm glad you picked up the ball and ran it home into the end zone. Well, thank you, Tim. This has been a great podcast. I appreciate what you're doing. I will be passing this along to everyone else. And let me take this ticker off the bottom here and hide. And I just want to make sure I remind everybody before we get off of this show, go to Amazon.com. We have more people watching now than we did in the beginning of the show. So scan the QR code at the bottom of the screen or go to victoryleadershipcoaching.com. That's my website. And you can find this book, and please get it, not just for your sake. I take the lessons I've learned through my struggles after transition and starting a business, and then everything that I learned from growing up in poverty to move forward. Your voice matters, and you're overlooked because of your environment, but you can overcome that. Environmental factors only go so far before you got to take control yourself. So anyway, Tim, thank you so much. And we will see everybody next time on another episode of Warrior Vetrepreneur Podcast.